Hi, welcome to day one of the 9 days of candle burning, and there are 9 red candles. And the reason I chose red was because I kind of stole this from a Chinese prosperity ritual, but I use it to focus us and unify us in thoughts. So my guest today is Dorothy Morgan.
Hi, everybody.
And we'll get into how you can reach Dorothy. And once you hear what she has to say, I'm sure you're all going to want to run over, join her channel, and get in touch with her because she's an incredible astrologer. But what we're going to start with is lighting the candles.
Yes.
Okay. This is the 9 candles, and we are on day 1, so we only light 1 candle. These are the candles. They'll be here all week. This is a fairy stone, and this is I think the color's coming through pretty plainly. It's a very, very, very pale looking amethyst, but it's actually not. It is kind of an amethyst, but it's a different color combination that makes it that pale. And these are called fairy stones. And in our world of crystals and things, it's what you use to connect to the elementals and the fairies. So we're going to light candle 1. Yay, lit. Okay. This is our meditation for today, for this 9 candle ceremony. Equal day, equal night. Balance the light and the dark. As the daytime shortens to that point, the ley lines, the energetic nerves of our planet, straighten and they stay in bounds. It's time for us all to connect with the elements of our planet. And in this time of rapid change, we pause to consider our own boundaries, where we have gone, where we are going. And with this ritual, we will consider where we've been and where we will be. Small rituals, personal rituals that we do for ourselves, or shared rituals like the 9 candles, connect our evolving selves and connect us and reconnect us to others and to the earth. Love and hope, light and warmth, our world needs them all. And now we are going to go back to see me, and to talk with Dorothy. And the reason I always have Dorothy on the first day is because she's an astrologer. And one thing astrologers do is they can look back in time, they can look forward in time, they can help us understand and project. And one of the things I was telling Dorothy today was the ley lines, which are this energetic nervous system around the earth, which I'm going to do a show on and explain to you more about how that energy's kind of been found and how it works. But they go straight. They don't wander too far. They just move with the moon. But they go straight 4 times a year all over the world. And there are people who follow ley lines that track this down. That's how we found this out. And they do it on the equinoxes and on the solstices, which is time when the sun reaches an apogee, whatever it is, the thing.
That's about right.
On its declination. And then they reach a stasis. And it's really interesting when you get to solstices because the sun sort of slows down. And the wavering in the ley lines is actually attached to the moon. So it's all attached to what's up in the sky. But the reason we're doing this now is I had a visit from the elementals. So listen to these guys, because I don't want to have too many more nights of being up all night. They want us to connect to the earth energy. It's all wonderful for us to deal with our intergalactic forces and all that other stuff. But the elementals, if you don't know what that is, those are what you were told as a child were myths. They're the unicorns, the fairies, the elves, the sprites, the sort of fun critters. And what they want us to do is to listen to Dorothy and her pattern about time and to think about what small ritual, what rock, what thing can I go out and look at the moon. Dorothy does great stuff. Go to her channel. She tells you how to work with the moon. All those kinds of cycles connect us back to this earth. And that helps us not only ascend and get to 4D and 5D and all that good stuff, but also to be able to deal with our own planet, which needs help. So with that, I'll leave it to Dorothy to explain what we're looking at.
Hi, everybody. So when it comes to those ley lines, I remember we were talking about this before we started recording, and I was like, what is it? I had such a blank. And then I realized it's like, oh, that's right. I used to live in a city up in New Hampshire that is well known for where two ley lines cross, and the energy, the feel, wow, it's just astounding what it feels like. I lived there, and the woods were magical and sometimes scary, but it was wonderful. And yeah, if you can, well, yeah, it'd be nice to hear what you have to say about that too, Nancy Jean, and your own thing. But what we wanted to talk about with the equinox that's coming up, and get all my dates and things straight in my head. I do forecasts for these things, so you guys do absolutely come to my channel and check them out. Yeah, the fall equinox is on the 22nd this year, and it isn't until 9 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, so you're going to adjust for your time zone. But that's the equinox, so of course that's equal sun and equal dark. And so the sun is still in, north of the equator. Pretty soon it's going to start within just the day, the moment it shifts from being north to south, and it starts to head south. And that's why here in the Northern Hemisphere, our days will start getting shorter. In the Southern Hemisphere, the days will start getting lighter. And that's what this is here. This is the science behind astrology. Astrology and astronomy got separated a long time ago, and it's a shame, but there are a lot of, they call them shamanic astrologers now, that are very much in the alignment with where the planets are, visibly seeing them. And yeah, to do ritual like you're talking about, and to take an opportunity like this equinox, and to just to find your own balance. That's what I recommend when we have this. The sun has moved into the tropical sign of Libra, and that is, about finding harmony and balance. And we can do that for that whole month that the sun is moving through that sign. We can do it always, but it's real important that we can focus on it during that time. Now, when we do have this equinox, when it happens, the moon is not in a waning phase. It's not in a waxing phase, it's in a waning phase. So at the equinox, we feel like we want to start new things, and you can set those intentions. However, we really have to wait. I would always recommend we wait until the new moon, this is my ephemeris, until the new moon, to really engage in ritual. Because that first new moon, the first new moon in the season of fall for most of us, isn't until the 25th. So it's on the 25th. Here's a number for you. Eastern time, of course, 5:55 p.m. There's some triple numbers going on here in this whole cycle. But think about it for those few days. So it's the equinox, the sun in that equal sun and day and night time period on the 22nd of September, and just give it a couple more days. Just process, think, take some time and say, and write it out, because Libra's an air sign. So that means we want to think things through and think things through for a few days. It's like, well, where do I feel out of balance, or am I out of balance, or you really can see it by when you're doing too much for so many other people. Well, maybe somebody here is spending too much time alone, and you need to get out. Whatever it is for you, find that time to get more in alignment with what's going on. And again, this is the opportunity when we have these equinoxes we have it in Aries, first day of spring in the Northern Hemisphere, and we have it in the fall, and vice versa for you guys who are in the Southern Hemisphere. And so, yeah, find that opportunity. Take it. Actually, don't have to find it. Just make a point of it. And then when we get to the new moon, and you're always talking about, you're talking about rituals, and your elemental people are saying, connect. So since this is an air, and we're talking about ley lines in the earth, but since this is an air opportunity because it's Libra, connect with the flying creatures is what we should do, because it's air. So write these things out. Always write out how you're feeling at a new moon. If you're not into ritual, but we're really encouraging you to do that, especially the dreams you've been having and what the elementals are telling you. They're really asking us to do our best to get back to creating ritual, and to do that at new moons are perfect. If we do it before the new moon, those 2-3 days before the new moon is about releasing. It's that balsamic lunar phase. It's about releasing. So the equinox happens during the balsamic lunar phase, which isn't the best time to start things.
No.
So let's get some things rolling for a couple days, then write out, use your journal, create, find peace, find balance, find harmony, and work with that. We also have Mercury retrograde and stationary in that time frame. There's a lot
A
going
lot of
on.
stuff going on. Ironically enough, I was explaining to Dorothy before we started, due to technical problems, in that I'm not technical and I'm the problem. I was going to start this. I was going to start this on the 14th, but instead I've had to move it to the 17th when tech support comes back and bails their mother's butt out and makes the programs work. So I just looked at my calendar. The 9 candles will end on the 25th. So follow the 9 candles and you'll be on the 25th when you need to write out your list.
Yeah.
You can start thinking about it along with the ceremony.
Yeah. Yep.
So do you have any fun charts to throw up to explain to us about why we ought to not like Saturn today?
I wouldn't tell you anything like that. I am very optimistic. Let's see, what do I have to share? Let's see. We were talking about, here's the equinox. We do have some stuff for the, how far ahead do you want me to go?
I'm actually going to have a conversation with someone later who's going to talk about the numerologic effect of the end of the year. So she's talking about how we're on the shoulder of this year and we're moving into the next. So whatever you want.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, that does make sense. Well, for the rest of the year, hey, I'm going to grab my my toolbar here that I can draw on the screen. I like to do that. I'm going to pull us closer. We have, this is Uranus. Now this chart, for those who can read the astrology charts, when I do forecasts and show stuff like this, you'll see this on my YouTube channel. I don't talk about the houses, the placement of the planets, because I live on the East Coast. Not everybody lives on the East Coast. That sets up where the planets are in the wheel. So we don't talk about the houses, and we don't talk about the ascendant or the midheaven in this circumstance. But I will talk about, planets as they're interacting with each other. So that's one of the bigger things that we have going on. But before we do that, this is what it looks like when the sun is at 0 degrees of Libra. Again, for me, it's at 9 p.m. But for you guys, others, even if you're on the West Coast, the sun's going to be up in there somewhere. The point is like, that's what it looks like. And this is what it looks like when there's a balsamic moon. That means the moon is moving this way and it hasn't caught up to the sun yet. So we're in that lunar phase, which is absolutely about inner reflection. So that's what I want us to do from this point. So this is the solstice. The equinox. This is the fall equinox at 9 p.m. Eastern, balsamic lunar phase. Process, just go within and do that work, because that's what we always do every month at this time of month. And then when we do get to that new moon, and that new moon is on the 25th, again, here it's at 5:55. For you guys there in Texas, it's 4:55, correct?
Right. Yes.
Yes.
Just an hour.
Yeah. So that's when we have that new moon, and that new moon will be at 4 degrees of Libra. So very early in the Libra energy. So we have that. And so that's the process that I would recommend. Hopefully that makes sense. And just as the sun is this is what it is over here. The sun is north, and just a day later, maybe I'll animate this. Maybe I won't. Yes. Just one day later, you can see now the sun is on the other side, so it's moved to the south. So that's just the piece. That's the science behind it. But we're going to go within and spend more time going within. Now, the rest of the year, one of the bigger aspects that is really connecting, they're not exact, but they're near each other, and that is Saturn and Uranus are in a square aspect to each other. They're all within 1 degree. So they're really, really tight. October 1st is the tightest aspect these two will make this year, but we'll really feel it for that whole first week. But honestly, this last quarter, they've been within range of each other. What does it mean? It means that Uranus is saying we need to be innovative. With it making its connection to Saturn, it's saying we need to be innovative and not continue to do the same things that haven't worked. And you've heard us saying this forever, but that's what that Saturn Uranus square represents. And there's a lot of, it's kicking up a lot of dust. You know, they were together 3 times in the year 2021. Right? They were together 3 times exactly. And we've seen what upheavals have happened in the world. It's not just the United States. So we have that going on. So I want us to just focus, if we will, on, besides finding your equilibrium again, or on a new level, we can do that. But also it's recommended that you be more, be open to being innovative and creative and independent and free, and just to seriously break from a lot of the old patriarchal systems. That's the political piece. That's the religious piece, right? There's a lot of that going on. That would be Saturn. However, Saturn is okay with change now too, because he's in Aquarius. He's been in Aquarius for over a year and a half. So there's a lot of things. And I have to say, I mean, those of you who listen, you are all already innovators and change makers, because you're open to all of these things that Nancy Jean and all of her guests talk about. So that is for you. And so it's not that you have to do anything different. It's just continue on. Yeah. It's people who are not open to anything changing. They're the ones who are going to have some difficulties with this in a lot of ways.
Dorothy, unless I'm mistaken, and I don't have a little pointer like you do, I see a lot of little red R's.
Yes, there's a lot of retrogrades. Yeah,
a lot of retrogrades.
Indeed. That happens. It is not uncommon. So we don't have to make a big deal out of it. It's important to know, yes, there are a lot of retrogrades, but we are in a cycle. And 15 years ago, it wasn't like this. They slowly just come together as they're all retrograde at the same time, all the outer planets. It usually starts right around April. That's when Pluto retrogrades. And then Neptune comes in, and then Saturn, and then Jupiter, and then Uranus follows suit. So as of the end of Uranus, as of the end of August, Uranus, all of the outer planets. So in Jupiter, Saturn are the social. So Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto were all retrograde. Pluto goes direct in October, and then Saturn goes direct in October. So October, we start to shift back. But as of really, once we got to, I think it was May when it really started to kick in. It was not May. It was June. It really started to kick in when Saturn and Pluto were retrograde. And then the end of June, Neptune joined in. The end of July, Jupiter joined in, and the end of August, Uranus joined in. So that's typical. Honestly, it is very, very typical. And it's good. But, we also have another big thing. So besides Saturn, Uranus doing its thing, we also have, I'm just advancing this. It should be advancing. On October 30th, Mars goes retrograde. I have done a separate video on that already. And that is on my channel as well. Just go look in you'll see it.
Yeah, Mars is doing a deal. Mars is what it's going to be in Gemini, like forever.
Yeah, it moved in. Yeah, let me grab my notes. It moved into Gemini on August 20th, and it won't leave Gemini until March 25th. So that's 7 months.
And it usually takes 2 months for it to go through a sign, right?
Yeah, usually it takes, we'll say 7 weeks. Usually it takes a little over 7 weeks to go through a sign. Sometimes it is a little slower because they're not perfect. Nothing's perfectly round here. So it's never a perfect. Anyways, it takes extra time in different signs. But this time it is retrograde from October 30th until January 12th in the sign of Gemini. Now, it will retrograde. Mars does retrograde every 2 years, approximately. However, the last time it was retrograde in Gemini, I believe it was 1990. This is the big book of numbers.
Hmm.
I believe it was 1990 when Mars was retrograde in Gemini. Yes, it was. It started at the end of, here it is, the end of 1990.
Hmm.
So September 1990, and then for 7 months after that. And so, yeah, so it went, actually, it was even before that. But yeah, because it popped into another sign. So yeah, it was the last half of 1990 and a little bit into 1991 was the last time it was in Gemini and retrograde.
Hmm.
So 1990, the end of 1990 is when it was retrograde in Gemini last.
Good.
So,
That was the charming year I got to spend 8 weeks in the hospital trying to not have a baby too soon.
oh,
So I don't know what happened in those times. I just sat in my hospital
yeah,
bed and vegged.
yeah,
Um,
yep.
but and the other thing about retrogrades is you got to realize the planets are not moving backwards. The planets just appear to be moving backwards to us
Mhm,
because
mhm.
of how we all go around the sun. So
That's right. So we go around and they go around, and it makes this like Mercury retrograde right now. It makes this, it looks like it's making a loop. It goes north and then south and then comes back up again. And it's just the science behind it is wonderful and fascinating. And the interpretations of it, are varied as well. But it does make a big difference if you're paying attention to that. And
mhm.
let's just get back to, not now, but let's get back to the equinox. Let's find
Okay.
it. Yeah, I gotta go find it. Let's go find it. Here it is. There we are. Yep. So back to that. So that's what we have going on right now. Um, so we have that, the equinox, we've covered that, and the lunar phase, we've covered that. And we also have the Saturn and Uranus making that 90-degree angle. And, it is, again, it's like we have to stop doing what we've been doing and move forward, help bring people. So those of us who do readings or teach classes, etc., or educate people like this, do what you can to help bring people along. And, your elementals are saying get back to ritual. Well, the easiest rituals to do is a new moon ritual and a full moon ritual.
Mhm.
And you don't have to follow the astrology. I mean, you certainly, I want you to, but if it's overwhelming, just listen. I always give people insight on how to use the new moon, how to use the full moon. That's on the channel, so you can get that too. And it's easy, and it gives you that sense of like you're in control of something because
Right.
you're manifesting, you're working towards things.
Right. And one
Mhm.
thing I tell people when they say, well, how did you learn about astrology? Well, I was fascinated with it. And I remember when I was in college, I went to a class at Free University.
Mhm.
And that's when I learned about Jupiter and Saturn being in the same cycle for 200 years. And the guy who was teaching the class said, I was 18 at the time. He said, you guys may live to see this, but I won't.
Yeah,
But he said, in this year at this time, these planets will
yeah.
move.
Mhm.
And I actually, the night that happened, I walked out and saw them up in the sky, knowing that
Mhm.
they moved. And the best way to learn astrology, I think, is to get your own chart drawn, which Dorothy does a marvelous job of.
Mm.
She will interpret it for you, which she also does a really good job of. And then pick out the things that interest you.
Yeah.
Pick out and just follow those. And
Mhm.
and I'm not saying follow them every day like crazy, but every
Right. Yeah. I don't
every
even,
few
well,
months pull it
I
out and
do
say,
that.
oh, did I follow that pattern, or did I beat the system, or did
Yeah.
I
You're never
beat
going
it
to
by
beat
it?
it. You're here for a reason. You're going to learn
Mhm.
a lesson. I teach out of this book. This is a great beginner book. This is a colleague of mine. Um, it's a fantastic beginner book. Actually, she was one of my original teachers. I've had two, and so that was back in night. That's when I started studying astrology.
Mhm.
Was back in
I
1988, 89.
uh-huh.
Yeah, so I was
So I
like,
beat you by 20 years. I was doing it in 1968.
yeah, I was 8 years old then.
I know.
I
And
didn't
I
start
wasn't.
until I was 28. I didn't start until my first Saturn return. I was 28, 29. Yeah. So,
And
mhm,
it's another tool to have in your pocket.
yeah,
That's why I always love to have Dorothy at the beginning of these sorts of things, because we can look at a whole cycle. We can kind of see a whole
yeah,
wheel ahead for us
yeah,
and
yeah.
decide what
That's
we want to do.
you can get that new moon up too. Where is it? Where's that new moon? What was it on? The 25th. Here it is. Yeah, here's the chart for the new moon as well. And then we have eclipses the rest of the year too. I am going to do that next. It's on my to-do list for about a week and a half now. I'm going to do a forecast for the rest of the year, just the big things, because we have 2 eclipses coming. One of them is on election day with Uranus. Yeah, the eclipse will be right next to Uranus. That would be fantastic.
Oh, good. That's
being
right on top of
sarcastic.
my Venus.
Yeah, I'm being sarcastic. It's going to be a bit rough. Definitely have some rough days. But here's what the new moon looks like, just for my location. But it's at 2 degrees. I thought it was at 4. It's at 2 degrees of Libra. Sorry, I misspoke earlier. Yeah, it does say 2. So here we are. So yeah, this is a nice opportunity here, with this new moon to set that into place. So I'm going to stop my share.
And even though Saturn is square Uranus and it's throwing the patriarchy out and it's saying, screw the power structure.
Yeah.
That does not mean you can't vote. It means you need to consider what is best for you and you need to go vote.
Yeah.
Not voting is abandoning the universe, not joining in with it.
And I hear people say, yeah, well, I have a right not to vote, just like you have a right to vote. And I'm like, cop out.
No, I just say,
go vote.
Yeah, I said, you ever walk out on yourself? That's fine. Abandon yourself. My mother was very active politically, and she was active in quite a different political direction than I was. And people used to say to her, Helen, why do you sully your hands in politics? And she said, I'd rather sully my hands on them than have them sully their hands on me. And what we've had is 20 years of them trying to sully their hands on us, starting from 2000. So guys, get with the program. Understand, we're given free will, we're given knowledge, we're given introspection, and that is to protect ourselves. I mean, there's a certain amount of self-preservation that's required, or, like the elemental said, they're going to stay in the cave they're hiding in right now, and they won't come out and help us. And we're going to need their help. And they're all pretty. They're lovely people. You really will like it. You get to 5D, you can see them, and they'll be out from under the ground.
I used to converse with them as a little kid. I'm one of 6, and I'm really sensitive to sound. So I would as like a little 4, 5, 6-year-old, I would just run away and hide, right? I didn't want summertime, and in the winter I would hide in my closet. I would hide behind all my stuffed toys, remember that ET? Yeah. I would do that in the winter, and in the summer I would go hide in the woods. And I would go it was just a big field. It wasn't big woods. There was a big field behind our house, and it was an old forsythia bush that was well overgrown.
That's what I used to hide under, was an old forsythia bush.
Yeah, and I would be there for days or hours and hours. I don't know how long, but I know I would just go wherever I would go. Fairyland. I don't know. I wouldn't have any. I would just hear my mom calling us for lunch or for dinner. That would be it. Yeah, I don't know where I went, but I would hide in those spaces, and I loved it. Wasn't afraid of ticks. They weren't ticks back then. I don't know what the hell happened.
That's another thing we screwed with the planet. It's like, I was talking to a friend of mine who doesn't remember when there were mosquitoes in Los Angeles. And she said the last 10 years they've had mosquitoes. And so she said, it's been weird to get used to having them. So it's us screwing with our environment. But the thing is, we can unscrew it, and we can unscrew it by connecting to the energies that can help us see how to heal. And that's what these 9 candles are about. So now we need to go. If do you have anything else? I want to tell everybody, please, Dorothy's website and how to reach her will be in the description below this video, and I would really encourage you to do that. She's one of the first readers I ever met in YouTube, and I met her before I was on YouTube. She has a whole lot to do with the first grid I ever built. Then the first thing that I knew actually worked was
you manifested me.
I manifested Dorothy. I put on my intentions. I wanted some fun prosperity and some things of abundance. And the next day I opened up my emails, and there was an email from Dorothy, and somehow or another she pulled me out of a bunch of emails that I had written her that month. And she said, we made an arrangement. When I met with her, I said, being an astrologer, I'll tell you this about astrologers, and I love them for it. They know when they do everything because they keep really good diaries. And so I said to her, when did you pull my name? And she went back in her book and she told me, and it was 2 hours after I'd fired up my first grid. That was for myself. And that was
Yep.
proof to me. These things work.
Nice.
So now I've given you an ad and me an ad, Dorothy. So it's time for us to quit being commercial and to get out of here and
Okay.
close this sucker down. We're going to.
You bet.
Okay. Bless us and everyone who's participating in this circle of light, and come back tomorrow and wave bye, Dorothy, because I'm about to stop this.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.